Vehicle preparation is an important part of what we do out here. And getting your car right and set up for these sort of trips is not just a matter of just buying something completely off the shelf and then building the car up. So things like long range tanks, quality tyres. By having good quality tyres on before you leave and start on your trip will give you a less chance of getting punctures, less chance of having breakdowns with your vehicle and all that sort of stuff. So having a good quality tyre that's tested and been trued out here, you'll find much better longevity. You won't have to do puncture repairs as many times because we are also dropping our tyre pressures. UHFs are very, very important because it's an integral part of how do we communicate from car to car, e.g. letting other cars know that we're coming, also cars coming towards us, also car-to-car communication with the rest of the cars in your convoy, and also finding out what's also going on and around you. And of course the most important part is good bedding. Bedding's an important part. Some people on our trip are swagging it, some people on our trip are also using rooftop tents or an Oz-style tent. So making sure you're comfortable out here and keeping warm is an important part of what you're doing as well. Vehicle preparation, dual battery systems. You'll hear a lot about that because we're running fridges in our cars. You want to be able to keep your food cold and all those sorts of things. So making sure that when you're packing your car, making sure that you're taking the things that you need and not taking too much of the stuff you don't need. So it's also about taking water and moving through that water. Like I only take sort of 6 bottles of water, but I have a bottle in the back of the vehicle. The beauty about that is the fact is I rotate those bottles through the fridge. So we've always got fresh water to drink in the car, but I haven't filled my fridge with 12 dozen bottles of water, which I'm not going to all drink at once. And it's the same with, if you're drinking alcohol or cans of soft drink and all that. Just rotate those through your fridge, so therefore you're not taking all the area space up in your fridge for drinks all the time.
Today we thought we'd talk about food preparation. Now coming through the Simpson desert, luckily enough, you've got a lot of cars, a lot of traffic, so you're not going to be stuck for too long. So a couple of days extra food would suffice. Now if we were going through the Great Sandy Deserts or some of the rural isolated areas of the Australian outback, you would certainly want to have at least 5 to 7 days extra food than what you would normally take, due to the fact that if you happen to break down, it could be a couple of days before someone's going to come along and help get you out of the trouble you're in. So I would suggest at least 40 litres of water to cover you for the drinking time, because you do use quite a bit of water while you're away, especially in the warmer summer months, and to have at least 5 to 7 days worth of extra food just to be on the safe side, because the last thing you want to do is get stuck out in the middle of nowhere and have no food from the moment you're there. Keep some extra dry bits just to be on the safe side, but if you're off in the remote WA, Pilbara region, somewhere out that way, certainly a few extra days worth of food from the trip. So you plan your trip well, make sure you've got enough food to cover you for the time you're there. You do eat more while you're away, even though maybe you're doing less, you do get hungry, you enjoy the environment, you eat well, and to make sure that you have food to suffice the time you're away. The type of foods you'd want to bring are stuff that's non-perishable, so things that comes in a can, so it's quite lightweight, everything in nice waterproof and tight containers. You can always transfer it into a sealable container and bring that along. That way it's easily kept, stocked up well, and make sure you have it in a box that will tighten up, because there is a lot of rodents out here as well, and they do get very interested in your food late at night when you're asleep. So you need to have everything packed away very well and very tight when you go to bed.
The conditions have really toughened up. It's actually quite bouncy out here in particular. They've had a lot of traffic through the desert, so you really never know what conditions are like. It's changed a lot since I was here last time, quite a few years ago. With all that weight, of course, takes a big toll on suspension and probably tyres. If we hadn't prepped the vehicle up probably with good suspension and tyres, we certainly would have been in trouble. So it's something to really think about when you're out here in the desert. So in line with the desert conditions out here, things are changing all the time, and this trip's changed a little bit from the start. We've lost one of the camera vehicles, and Simon and Miranda have really had to load up their Nissan. So it shows you with preparation, then due to that, you really need to make some allowances. Sometimes you don't know who you might come along. Somebody may even need a hand out here. If you're in a group, of course, you can share the load if you need to, if one of the vehicles starts playing up. So it's very important with those changing conditions to make sure you've got the right gear. Again, like I was saying, Simon and Miranda's car, it's heavily laden now with probably at least maybe half the gear that was in Danny's car that wasn't able to make it. You've got to drive to conditions, and obviously that's going to be certainly for Simon and Miranda's vehicle. They've got good quality suspension in it and good quality tyres. Probably a bit overloaded now, and that's just the nature of these conditions out here. But again, if you drive according to the conditions, don't race up and down the dunes, you'll be able to make it through the other side without a problem.
When you're doing a trip like this, your ute, like mine, doubles as your work ute. Sometimes drawers and fridge slides can get in the way. Here's a good idea. Slide the whole lot out the back of the ute. Everything's available without climbing into it. We can keep all our fuel at the front, which you don't access a lot. Everything you need to access a lot is at the back. You don't have to live on dried biscuits and noodles while you're out in the outback. As long as you're organised in advance and you've got some good quality equipment, you can have hot pies, hot food, and that can lessen the time you have to stop while you're waiting to prepare a decent feed. Food on the run, hot pies, toasted sandwiches, whatever you want, it's all ready to go. Lunch is served. Beautiful.
Next up, it's the Your 4x4 email competition.
Well, our entry for this week comes from Adrian Mudge, and Adrian has written, "Love my 80 series, simple, no frills and honest, and takes me the scenic route to the middle of beautiful nowhere and home again."
Thanks for sending in that email. You've won yourself a Lightforce tack torch and stubby holder, and you're also in the running for the ARB twin motor portable compressor. For full details, visit the Your 4x4 website.
Here we are in the remote desert. Probably one of the things we really have to do is, of course, prep our vehicle. But I think a lot of people lose sight of the fact that when they're preparing, they keep adding this and keep adding that, and probably if we have a bit of a look in here, we've got weight coming out of our ears. Now, this old Project Nissan that we've been doing up, you've seen it in some of the series, standard alloy bull bar. It's now fully equipped up with all the steel gear. As you can see, the back is pretty fully loaded. Probably not overloaded, but it hasn't got much room left. The big thing was the weight. I weighed this vehicle when we started, quite a few weeks ago before we started setting it up. It was about 2,240 kilos, I think it was exact. And it's now just weighing in at about just over 3,000. So before you know it, we're at about 3/4 of a tonne of added weight from pretty much a stock vehicle up to ready to go across the Simpson or go on a really good outback trip. So just always be aware of that. With that, of course, you need good tyres to run along with it, and in particular the suspension. We've had to do a little bit of upgrading on this old machine.